Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the psychological impact of social media on college students. My name is Patricia. Nice to meet you all. As college students, the first thing we seem to do when we wake up is quickly grab our phones and check what notifications we have. See, since social media is such a big part of our everyday routine, most of us do check our phones within minutes of waking up. And because of how frequently we use our phones and social media platforms, it is important to understand how they affect our mental health. Why this matters is that because on average, college students spend several hours a day on social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, or Snapchat, to name a few of the popular ones, research shows that increased screen time is associated with higher levels of anxiety and depression. The symptoms of these show predominantly amongst young adults that use social media more frequently than most. And since college students are most usually the primary users of these types of platforms, understanding the psychological effects is especially relevant to us. Social comparison and self-esteem. The first major effect of social media platforms is social comparison, because social media often presents posts and highlight reels that showcase most of the good parts of people's lives, such as vacations uh, and carefully edited photos, as well as large achievements. But this can lead to feelings of inadequacy and comparison, and and when students do compare themselves to these unrealistic standards, it can lower self-esteem. And research does show that higher social media use is linked to increased symptoms of anxiety as well as depression. Another effect of social media use is sleep disruption, as everyone usually, myself included, tends to scroll for a few hours before bed. However, the blue light that emits from the phone when scrolling can interfere with melatonin production and knock off your circadian rhythm. Research also shows that excessive screen time can be associated with lower psychological well-being, partly due to reduced sleep quality. Reduced sleep quality can cause increased stress, increased moodiness, as well as affect concentration and academic performance. Habit formation. This is another thing that social media does affect. And you form the habit to immediately go to social media or check your phone almost every minute or second for some of us. Uh, this does involve dopamine and habit formation, since social media platforms are designed to activate the brain's reward system. Notifications and likes do trigger small releases of dopamine, which in turn reinforce this behavior. This creates a cycle known as the habit loop, and a cycle where we repeatedly and immediately check our phones to gain that small boost of dopamine and mental stimulation. Um, Research also finds that limiting social media use can reduce these habits and also improve concentration and reduce depression amongst college students. As seen here, more screen use means more anxiety, and reduced use can lower feelings of loneliness and depression, since you're more likely to interact with your peers if you simply will put down the phone. And there is a strong correlation in college students who use um, social media more amply. In conclusion, social media affects college students' mental health in three main ways: through social comparison and lowered self-esteem, sleep disruption, as well as habit formation. Social media itself is not necessarily harmful. However, being aware of it does allow us to make more intentional choices about how we use it. The next time you have the tendency to reach for your phone, ask yourself whether you're intentionally using your phone or simply out of a habit you've developed. Thank you for listening, all. That was my speech on how the psychological impact of social media on college students.